What's up? Welcome to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Masters of the Air, the historical drama series from Apple TV Plus, starring Austin Butler and Callum Turner, also featuring familiar faces like Barry Keoghan and Ncuti Gatwa. Masters of the Air, of course, the follow-up from Playtone and Amblin to Band of Brothers and the Pacific, those shows on HBO, critical and commercial hits in their time, the long-awaited follow-up about Air Force forces in World War II finally happened over at Apple. And Masters of the Air, having watched all 9 episodes, I would say is a solid show. Definitely comes in below Band of Brothers and the Pacific. And I think there's some key reasons for why. But for what this is, which ultimately is very dad-core television, I think it's solid. Ultimately, I think the biggest issue with Masters of the Air, which is completely solid for what it is, but the reason it doesn't really rise beyond being just okay, is that the structure of this series and the subject of it just does not lend itself as well to TV the way the Band of Brothers in the Pacific did. Centering ourselves around pilots in the air going on bombing runs, it's just a lot less visually interesting than boots on the ground. We're not even spending time with fighter pilots. We're spending time with guys in the Flying Fortress bombers. It's just a lot less engaging. And unfortunately, this is a show that really needed to lean on a lot of CGI, unsurprisingly, all these scenes up in the sky. And it's just a lot less, I think, visually interesting. On top of that, with all the guys wearing the breath masks, jumping from bomber plane to bomber plane, we have a hard time really following where we're at. The show also has the unfortunate sin of introducing new characters kind of often as other characters die, even as most of our lead characters make it through unscathed. It's hard to really get connected to a lot of the characters until the show really starts to pick up. I think once we get on the ground more, some of our characters get captured, some other characters die, we start spending time with someone else like Rosie. I think that's when the show starts to really shine as best it can, but it also has makes the unfortunate mistake of introducing the Tuskegee Airmen in the penultimate episode and kind of really tokenizing them on the show in the same way they were kind of sidelined in the war itself. I enjoy spending time with Austin Butler and Callum Turner as leads. I think Butler still kind of giving you a bit of Elvis voice. This show was filmed in 2021, unsurprising. It's a great look for Turner, right on the heels of Boys in the Boat, now dating Dua Lipa. That guy's doing great for himself. Barry Keoghan also in the show, who, following the Saltburn exposure, he's obviously grown a lot more famous, but I kind of had a feeling that he would die early, of course, dying in episode 3 when his plane crashes. I kind of had a feeling that would happen because they kind of tipped their hand when he didn't promote the show to the same degree as Turner and Butler did. The Tuskegee stuff, though, really is a bummer because you have Ncuti Gatwa in there, who's only gotten more famous and only become more of a rising star following Sex Education. Now seeing him in Barbie, he's the new Doctor Who. And he's not even the lead Tuskegee pilot. He's one of the other guys. But the Tuskegee guys, they really have nothing to do at all. And they're just kind of there on the side. And yes, they're being historically accurate in how they're portraying the segregation of the military at the time. But it just kind of feels like a half-assed, hand-wavy inclusion, to be honest. Once the characters get captured, though, I think the stakes get a lot more interesting. I thought the interrogation scene that Bucky Egan does with one of the Nazis in episode 6, I thought that was pretty interesting. They kind of do a dumb fake out with Austin Butler's Buck character, where it's pretty clear he would not die off screen, but they pretend that he did for 2 episodes. It's okay. Yeah, the time progression also is kind of interesting. There's like an inconsistent use of title cards. You have Anthony Boyle's narration kind of dictating most of the series. But yeah, honestly, I enjoyed the show most when we weren't up in the planes, just because, again, it just was not visually interesting. And I guess it got a bit repetitive. We kind of watched the same motions happen. And after you do that a few more times, it's kind of whatever. Notably, I think to me, the shifts in quality, the improvements in quality on this show largely are in sync with as the directors of the episodes change. You've started with Cary Fukunawa, into Anna Bold and Ryan Fleck, also Dee Reese. It got more interesting as the Helmer of the series changed. There's some pretty rousing stuff when guys are getting freed from the camps or trying to escape, But ultimately, it's not like a show with like amazing dialogue per se. There's nothing like super pump you up about any of the speeches. So I guess I was a little let down by Butler on the show. I just wanted more. I wanted more flash, but his character Buck Clevin is kind of more even keeled. So it's just fine. Of course, you see all the articles about will there be a season 2 of Masters of the Air? I don't know how that would make a lick of sense, given that this show took us through the end of the war. You could do a anthology treatment of the concept of Masters of the Air and either go way back to the beginning of the war and do some with some RAF pilots, or go to Vietnam with helicopter pilots. I don't know, but like I think we've kind of seen the extent of what the Playtone Amblin military shows can be, and I don't know if I'd want another one of these unless it's on the ground, because ultimately these are shows that require lavish budgets, lavish productions, and if you're not going to really buy in and do them super well, I think we can just kind of leave this fair to movies, to be honest. But yeah, Masters of the Air, I'm not disappointed by it, but I'm also not wowed by it either. Let me know though, how'd you feel about the series? And for more TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.